You have to answer your questions.
Questions? I'd like to talk about the prevailing wage we talked about. If that's okay. Are we saying that the prevailing wage for a labor in Butler County is $33.85 an hour?
According to the most recent wage determination, yes, sir.
That's about what it is in St. Louis.
Our area's probably close to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's influenced by the St. Louis market. Certainly is.
You know, I am a electrician by trade, union electrician. And for us to work in this area, we actually, they call it a second-class county because of population. We actually take almost a $6 pay cut when we do work in this area.
Sure.
And so I just find it ironic that the prevailing wage for laborers is higher than what it is for electricians. Usually it's the other way around.
Well, electricians in Butler County, according to this labor sheet, an electrician inside wiring, you're paying $30.30 an hour plus 906 plus 37% for fringes. So you're paying 45, 50 bucks an hour.
I need to move here. We'll be glad.
I'm serious. It's amazing when you're us trying to. A lot of the labor on these projects makes 2 and 3 times what my employees that are doing the inspection rate, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse in the last 20 years.
Wow. Thank you. President Brandon.
Well, I think what confused me for years, and finally after visiting with a number of local contractors, I was why, when we all know our wages are so low, do we pay high prevailing wages?
Sure.
Is it because none of us have the staff or the software or the time to fill out those prevailing wage forms? So no small contractors turn them in. And we basically, in this part of the world, we don't have giant contractors, and they can't hire a full-time person. As I understand it, prevailing wage reports are fairly cumbersome. You know, I mean, maybe we could find a way to simplify that.
You're correct, exactly correct. And the research I've done, going to the AGC in Missouri or something, trying to get those folks to help the smaller guys fill out those paperwork. That's not very true yet.
They just said we can't afford to do it.
It's because out of default, because there's no wage reports turned in the outstate areas, the city rates end up being implemented.
Let me throw another wild card out there. This just happened this year. We as engineers for any federally funded projects now have to certify that the certified payrolls provided to us from a contractor have been done correctly. So we have a liability that the contractor has paid themselves the correct prevailing wages.
Well, but you know why they do that? They do that to make sure that contractor A is paying prevailing wage, but he normally, if he wasn't on this project previously, he would normally pay 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour. So when the guys get their check, he doesn't say, hey, come to daddy, you know, you haven't been making this money, so you don't need to make this money now. We need a portion of that.
Well, but there's also, on top of us, there's also administrators that are hired as part of the grant. So it's a triple check, which, you know, it doesn't take much of our time. It's kind of goofy that you have to have 3 checks on the same prevailing wages.
So I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, at the end of the day, with emergency situations, you're not advocating the prevailing wage to be eliminated as a rule. But when you have an emergency situation and you're trying to get back to the norm, it's going to save the taxpayer dollars, but not only the expenses as far as how much money we pay, but time as well.
Emergencies tend to be labor expenses. So it's not like building a highway where emergencies, they're being, just like the folks with the EMA, it's boots on the ground that we're dealing with. So you're looking at such a wide gap in fees that, yeah, emergencies would be a good start. Another thing is you guys, the federal government has contracts with these huge national contractors like Joplin and Weston came to Joplin and started work. Weston may be the best people in the world, but there's contractors in Missouri that can do that same work, and they're 2 and 3 and 4 rows down, and there's no guarantee they're going to get their pay. A lot of these contractors, disaster contractors, are based in Missouri. We need to be doing a better job getting these contractors utilized.
How often are those bid out? The pre-selection is bid out, is that right?
That's correct.
How often? Do they do it every year, every 2 years?
The contract that I have is for 5 years. It's with the New Orleans district, but it says that it can be for the whole division, which is all of the core offices all the way up to Minnesota. So it's been a tremendous tool. I didn't really understand why it would be important, except when they think they have an issue, they're able to dispatch me a work order, and I already have everything in place, and I can mobilize my folks immediately. And so that's been a very good tool that, that I think we can look at in Missouri and learn from and move forward. I'm sorry.
Standard, we've got in Butler County, I think somewhere between 60 and 100 miles of well. Just assuming we've got and that's levee that needs to be fixed, repaired, or replaced. Are you saying the difference in the construction cost would be, are you saying it's a difference of almost $450,000 per mile?
It's just in labor.
Per mile.
And I'm assuming bringing in 3,000 yards of dirt a day, hauling at 20 miles. And I think that's pretty.
So you're talking about a difference in construction cost of $3 million just in Butler County?
Certainly. It's a lot of money. And we not only see this in these emergency situations.
Those figures you're quoting, you're using Butler County rates, but are you talking about building a levee in Butler County or a levee on the river?
You're going to see that I ordered the rates, I downloaded the rates from Butler County.
Okay, but what I'm saying is you'd have 2 different size levees.
Oh, no, it'd be the same rate. Mississippi County may be a buck or 2 different one way or the other, higher or lower.
Oh, okay, so you're talking,
You order your rates by county, and there's waste determinations each time you put a project out to bid that has government money.
doesn't matter the size of the levee.
No, sir.
Okay.
Well, that's on labor.
Yeah.
The levee as a whole might cost more on Mississippi versus Black River.
Well, the levee could be designed differently because the Mississippi River's got so much more water, it's going to be on it longer. But you still are, to build a 15-foot tall levee, you're looking at about that much dirt per mile. Yes, sir.
You're telling me if there's a tree on a levee that is threatening the integrity of the levee, there's no way to get that thing down in the spring.
After April 1st, you have to do a batch study. The folks that do that stuff can bring in listening devices, and the Indiana bat makes a sound that's a different frequency than other bats.
Could you make that sound for us?
Is that EPA, DNR?
It's an endangered species bat. I mean, you're having to, it's NEPA.
EPA.
Well, it's an endangered species. I don't know what program that comes under. But those trees shouldn't be there anyway. Those trees should have never been allowed to grow, but because these levee districts didn't have the money to do proper maintenance, we got trees that big around growing on our levees. So, but that's something that's going to slow this down.